It always says preparing while we're live, so it's blooper reel.
Oh, we are absolutely live. Hello and welcome to Silent Mystics Finding Your Voice, where every Monday we come and we talk about the magical, the mystical, and sometimes the completely unexplainable. So I'm Jeryl and this is my co-host Diana, and she is going to introduce our very lovely guest, Erin, who is with us again today. Yay! I'm so excited for this conversation.
Erin Robertson is one of our regulars, and many of you have spoken, listened to her this before. She has some really interesting stories about animal communication from the time she was very, very small. And also, there's so much more to Erin. So when we get to talk, and we talk a lot about diet-related things, we talk a lot about exercise, all kinds of stuff. So I don't know what's going to come out of us today, but I'm excited to get things started. Erin, do you need me to put you on the spot, or would you like me to ask you a question? Would you like me to just open it up to you and say go?
Yeah, I can go if you want.
Okay, tell us what you're all about today.
um, well, today the theme that's been coming up for me lately is, and it's what I'm gonna teach in my classes, however it's gonna come about, is a quote that I got off a book from Francis Weller called The Wild Edge of Sorrow. And I have said this before, and it keeps cropping up. The quote is, "The grief and sense of loss that we often interpret as a failure in our personality is actually a feeling of emptiness where a beautiful and strange otherness should have been encountered." And that has been the theme that has run through my life ever since I could remember.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the strange and beautiful otherness for me is the connection to nature that we don't have anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like that nagging feeling inside that something's missing, or you're doing something wrong, or you're not good enough, or you something that you just can't quite explain, but something always doesn't feel right.
Right.
And that's what I want to explore in my classes, and hopefully get people connected to, so they, they don't feel like there's a lack in their personality.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
Because
you know, gosh, go ahead. I love that otherness. I always do because how many of us as empaths we walk around and we're like so confused over who we are and what we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to and it feels to me that whole thing is we're coming back. We can say, well, we're not very connected anymore. We're actually becoming more and more connected, and it's having people like you that come out and say, okay, I'm gonna teach because I know how to get back to that otherness. I know how to find that part of me that's been missing. So I love that. Yeah. So where do you
and
start?
yeah, because I've recently been diagnosed as Asperger's, but that still doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's I can get back to that strange and beautiful otherness,
Mm-hmm.
but it's either being there and feeling great and not having anyone else there with me, or being with humans that aren't in the strange and beautiful otherness and
Right.
having that connection, but not having the strange and beautiful otherness connection. It's like in this world you can't have both, and that's what I want to do in my classes, is to merge the two, have humans that are connected.
Do you feel like when you say that, what what makes me think is the reason why you have such an easy time connecting with animals is because you are high on that autistic spectrum, as society would say, and so it's easier for you because animals are at a higher vibration. It's easier for you to be up there vibrating with them, communicating with them, than it is to be down there stuck with the 3Ders that have no idea who they really
Mm.
are.
I've never I've never accepted human the ways humans do things. I never have. I think it's strange.
Mhm. Me too.
And
Just to say,
yeah,
I'm good at conforming. Well, let's see. I'm good at hiding myself. But I'm sure Geraldine would say the same thing. It's like so many times it's very difficult for us to lower our vibration. I remember I used to work a lot with Paul Wyrostek, and he's, it was so difficult because he was wide open from birth, like you, really all of us. So hard for him. He had to find ways to try to, and many times that's where alcohol comes in. That's where drug usage comes in, things like that. Addiction comes in because we're vibrating so up here someplace. And then for us to try to be dumbed down. That's what school always felt like to me. That's what friendships, it was like so difficult for me to make deep friendships. And I always thought there was something wrong with me. And it was just because I was vibrating at a higher frequency than a lot of the people that I was trying to be around. And it just didn't feel natural to me. Is that right? You guys, do you relate to that? Yeah.
yeah. And that's my thing. Like I struggle. Like I worked in the doggy daycare since 2009 till I'm going to say 2016 because the takeover, I don't really count that. The other management took over. That was the best time of my life because I didn't have to dumb myself down. I was on that level with the animals and the people that worked there. They were on that level too.
Mm-hmm.
And having to leave there and go into human jobs where there's just humans and their routines and their systems, and it just seemed so foreign, and it felt like moving into that world, it was either sacrificing my soul for that to work. And I'm just not willing to do that.
I get it.
As you talk about this, Erin, the question comes up in my mind to you is it because when working with animals, there's no 3D construct. It's simple in the sense that, they're not lying to you. They're not manipulating you. They're not doing all of these, living through these 3D constructs. They're just love, and they're pretty, I would think, at least my animals seem to be that way, more direct, more simple, more just need oriented. Is that part of it for you, or is that what starts to happen? The energies are less frenetic, maybe? I don't know what the right word would be to use with that.
Yeah, when the other doggy daycare took over management, they brought in health and safety procedures. They brought in scripts to sell stuff to the customers. They brought in rules and regulations and red tape and training measures and all the stuff that the dogs do not care about. It's like the doggy daycare is meant to be for the dogs.
Yeah.
And like that's why I don't like the health and safety, because that in itself brings in an essence of fear. Like, this health and safety measure is here just in case this bad thing happens. So you've always got an air of this bad thing might happen. The dogs pick up on that and they're freaking out because we're unconsciously, we have to think about that because this bad thing might happen. In the other doggy daycare, we could leave them. We could go up to the room, change a water bowl, come back, and they'd be fine. But with the other place, if we leave to change a water bowl, the place they'd start howling within like 30 seconds because there's always an essence of fear with the health and safety and the procedures, and they didn't know how to act without a human around.
They didn't have that.
Yeah, whereas my way, I let them take the lead and taught them how to be. Like I listened to them, learnt who they are, and then let them express who they are, so they know they're okay who they are, so they can be alone with who they are. And all these procedures and systems in life, I don't understand them.
Mhm. Yeah, that's understandable.
And it sounds like the animals don't understand them in one sense, but they understand the disruptive energy, the paranoid, and I don't know, disruptive,
Yeah,
paranoid, but they pick up on that energy of chaos or disconnect or fear. Maybe fear is the best word. And so they're responding to that because there's all of this structure in place that, oh my gosh, this could happen. And that leads me to a question with you, because I have this somewhat with my animals, because most everybody out there, a lot of people out there know Angel. And she's about 60 pounds and she's a mixed breed of heaven only knows what all. You know, and she's really pretty good with other people, but she's not user friendly with other dogs. And in fact, recently, my parents were here with their little Yorkie, and they got into it in the kitchen because there was food and there was the Yorkie was up on my husband, and there was territorial issues and God only knows what. But Angel ended up biting the little Yorkie on the head and drew blood, you know. And so now I have this fear, if you will, that if anybody brings their animals to my house, that this conflict could happen. So what does someone do? I mean, it's not like it's not a really real thing, because she really doesn't care. She's not real social with other animals. How do I not put that energy out there? I don't know how to navigate that, to tell you the truth. Is there any suggestions you would have for anybody out there, including my particular me, you know, as to how do we, when we know we have an animal that can be territorial, I'm really being nice about it.
I have one too.
You know, and to make sure that everyone is safe, the other animals.
The first thing that comes to mind is dogs have personalities like people. Some are happy-go-lucky extrovert labs who love everyone, want to be around everyone, and some dogs are just leave me alone. They need their own space. They want their own space. They don't need, not every dog needs to be dog friendly. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But if you do want people around, then that is where animal communication can come in. If she's willing to see your point of view, she could just be like, I could go in and connect with her and say, this is what you want to happen when other dogs come round.
Okay.
For her to not do that.
Yeah.
Right.
But if she has a good reason to do that, then
She's
that's
protecting
just
her little doggy. That's the truth. That she's very protective of her little dog. So she's going to protect, and I'm sure, and she's very protective of you. She is a very protective breed.
Yeah.
Now she's got lab, and does she have pit bull in her? What is
I
the
think
other
she's
breed?
got like pit. She's got chow. She's
Chow.
got pit and some lab maybe. I don't know. She's
Crazy, though.
quite a mixture.
Yeah.
Did you see I reacted to chow instead of pit bull?
Yeah.
I did
exactly.
because I used to work for a vet, and it's like Chow. I had a half Chow, and he was the sweetest guy in the world, but he had the boxer brain. He didn't get the Chow brain. Chows can be very unpredictable breeds. You know, people need to understand that when they get them.
Well, and Sissy, my other dog that passed a couple of years ago, she was Chow and border collie. So her border collie that personality came more out than the chow. She was protective, but she was sweet. She loved everybody and everything, and she wanted to, herd everybody. But she was so loving.
My colleague.
Angel is really a sweet dog in the right circumstances. She really is. But when it comes to her territory, and if one of the little dogs get in there, she's just very aggressive.
She can actually be a little territorial of her space too, because I know that she always likes to sit on the sofa, and I was like, I know that was my spot during the Reiki, and I'm like, no, this is my spot, and I'm like sitting down, and she's like giving me this little grumble. I'm like, no, this is my spot. She's like, no, mine. It's mine. She's got that territorial side. She and I usually get along, and after a while she relaxes a little bit because I'll just talk her down. But yeah, she's got something in her that kind of, she holds her ground.
She does. I don't know where she gets it. Yeah, they say, I have to say that when I had Sissy and I had Brookie, and I'm curious how frequently you see this, but it felt like Sissy and Brookie were both aspects of my personality. Like one was very much kind of the loving healer. I want to nurture you. I want to take care of you. And the other one was kind of a diva and kind of not quite maybe my lesser appealing aspects of my personality. Now, so now I have this Angel who is kind of a healer. She has that, but she's really very territorial.
Can I say something
I still
to
have
that?
Brookie. Huh?
There's something in her too. She's very, very good at seeing spirit too.
Oh yeah.
And she's in your life really to protect you. She sees more than other dogs coming. She's always like, oh, she's barking back there at that corner, or she's seeing stuff that the rest of us are not seeing. She's like Angel's the best name for her. She's like your guardian angel. Well, if I would think that if Erin had a good talk with her, was able to communicate and say, okay, yes, your job is to guard, your job is to watch over, but these are, there's times, and you do it however you want, but I would think maybe you might be able to have that conversation with her to kind of turn it down a little bit. That she doesn't always have to be on guard, that she can relax a little for her own sake. It would be good for her to learn that.
Because Brookie, there's been something in here lately because she's literally growling at the air, and I know she's seeing something. So, but we have some really good questions here for Erin. Now Laura, she says she has a Skipper Key min pin, and she says is a lovable maniac.
And a 3-leg min pin. I know what she's talking about.
Yeah, she says her little one freaks out when she leaves the house. She aggressively barks. But Luz says, my sister has a cat that constantly bites her. What do you think this behavior is coming from? Now, I have a cat, Hope.
That's a loaded question.
She bites everybody. I tell everyone. And
I love her, and she loves me, and then I'll pet her, and we're like, oh, we're getting along so great, and then she's like, I'm done. Boom.
She bites everybody. So is there a general consensus as to why maybe a cat would be a biter or not a biter, or is it like people, very personality driven?
That is a loaded question, and to some extent my button does that sometimes. And like going back to what you said, like she's mirroring that side of my personality. That could be one of the reasons why. Another reason why could be that you're approaching with the wrong energy. Like, yeah, she might love you, but you're going with her to her with the wrong kind of energy.
Okay.
Yeah, because my button, I'll pet her, and I think she's 12 now, so I think she might have a little bit of arthritis and a bit of hip pain, and yeah, she's getting less accepting of life. So yeah, I'll be petting her, and then she'll just turn around, have a little bite and scratch. yeah, so it could be pain.
She does have a
Could,
spot. Your kitty does have a spot on her. I noticed that when I was touching. There's one spot that if you go to that spot, she will bite you.
I've noticed that since you said something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and it could be past behavioral, like past trauma that she's had in this life. It could be triggering some movement someone did earlier that caused her trauma. Could be the same movement that you're doing now.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a very loaded question.
Okay. So you almost have to
kind of work with
it. Yeah. Laura said, she talked about she's the one that has the min pin combo skipper key. And she said, I also wonder why my dog growls at me sometimes, kind of out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Is that another? It's got to be one of those other kind of loaded. The dog is 5 years old.
People have triggers and animals have triggers too. And that's what you were just talking about. They've been injured in the past. We don't know, especially if we take in a rescue. We don't know how they've been hurt in the past. So it may be that it's just triggering her. Something has happened that's bringing up something that scares her, and that triggers something in her little psyche. Do you find help with that when you do sessions? I was just thinking that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Erin. How do people, all these people could get a hold of you and schedule a session with you and their animals, right? How do they do that?
All those questions are loaded questions, and there's so many reasons why animals do that, and that's why I'm so passionate about animal communication, because there's so many training methods and techniques that generally could fix stuff for the majority of dogs, but like people, dogs are individuals. Like cognitive behavioral therapy doesn't work for everyone, and that's the main thing at the moment. And you need to get in, like my equine assisted therapy, like body-based somatic experiencing, going in, feeling sensations and your emotions. That is tailored to the individual, because everyone is different. And that's what animal communication does, is it goes in and tailors to that individual animal.
She says, only me. If I go to pet him on the couch, he growls, but not at my son or husband. But he's great with her 90% of the time. So maybe it's just the mood she's in or something, or her just energetic personality. What is
she thinking and feeling when she goes to pet him, and why is she going to pet him?
Now wait, I just had a flash on something too, is maybe at some point in this dog's journey, being on the sofa was not the best, was not allowed, and it was a female that would chastise in whatever way. So maybe that's why she's on the couch, you're coming to the couch, you may be just petting, she may think, oh, I'm in trouble, something is triggering her to think that there's something wrong with what she's doing, so she's lashing out. Or
maybe the couch, maybe the dog has made the couch
that's her territory,
his safe place, and when the dog is on the couch, just that's the dog time.
Right.
Just leave him alone. That's his space. It's his little quiet time.
Right.
That's what popped in my head.
I was actually going to say that too, because you're the one that taught me this more than anybody, and I've learned it a couple of times, but you drilled it home, was that these animals actually come to us for a reason. They actually, animals are here for a purpose just like the rest of us. And so they've got their job to do. And we tend to think, well, this is really inconvenient for me. I can't have anybody over here with little dogs because my dog might bite them, or I can't touch this dog on the sofa, or I can't do all these things. Well, try to remember that animal actually has a purpose in your life, and they're a thinking being, and you may be stepping on their toes a little bit. There may be something that they know, I got something to do here, and so that's what your animal communication is all about, you know, getting deeper into what's their purpose, why are they actually here, and then we start to understand. We've got to stop looking at it as from the human perspective, like I own this animal and they're here to please me. They're not here just to please us. They have a much bigger purpose.
Animal communication is disruptive to the status quo. It's getting out of that logic-based human way of doing instead of being, feeling, sensing.
Right.
And that's why it's not the only reason why animals are here, but animals come into our lives to snap us out of that.
Right.
Because with my boy who started all of this, I just wanted him to have a safe, warm place to stay and have some food, and so he doesn't get beat up and have scratches and abscesses all over him. But he's created a snowball effect of, I have to change every single aspect of my life. I have to leave the comfort of my 3D job and go out on a limb and start this animal communication venture and live my life's purpose, which is horrifically uncomfortable. I could have just said no to those whispers in my ear and what he was telling me. I could have said, nah, that's too scary, not going to do it. But again, the grief and sense of loss and feeling like a failure if I don't do it, and it'll always be there. And then again, I'll probably go back to weed and alcohol to make it go away and dumb myself down so I don't hear that.
Right. So that cat's saving you. The cat's the one's pushing you down your path. That's really amazing. Can I tell you real quick? This is a story that just came up to me because this is how important our animals are. I need to make this clear when I say that they're thinking beings. Zachary, when we first got him, he's a big old collie, and we had 3 cats already. And when he first got there, he and the cats did not get along. He was too big. The cats hated his guts. We just moved into a different house. They were down in the basement all the time. Only one would come up. Zachary and the cat would fight, and it was horrible. I found I had an animal communicator deal with them, and she started talking with Zachary, and all the other cats are kind of giving their, the other animals except for one wouldn't communicate, but they're like, their purpose here or whatever. And she got around to Zachary, and Zachary was like, I can't tell her. And she just couldn't give me the reason that he was here, but it was important. There was a message that he came to share with me, but she didn't know what it was yet. It had to wait its turn. A year later, after we got Zachary, was when Steve got sick and was dying. Now, Zachary and Steve, they walked every day. He walked that dog every day. They got to be so bonded. And a year later, when Steve died, I was the dog walker, and the dog became my dog. And if I hadn't had that dog, I don't know where I would be. I don't know if I'd have made it through, because he was the reason. So I really feel like when Steve died, I had to get that leash, and I would say, hey, Steve, let's go take a walk. And so we would go out, and it was like we had this time together, and Steve had that time with the dog. And Zachary got me out every day, into nature. So it was like, that's how important they are to us, that sometimes you'll hear dogs, waking people up when the house is on fire, or you hear all these crazy stories. We need to be paying more attention to them. That's why the kind of work that you do is so important, is us really paying attention to what they're here, like you, with this cat trying to teach you to get into animal communication. It's so important. And when we treat them like they're just an object, we've missed the whole boat. There's a reason they're like angels, and they're here to give us something important if we're paying attention. So that's why I'm so happy. I got to take some classes with you, because I want to get better at hearing what this dog is doing. He's trying to do get more into that head of his.
Yeah. Well, and they're trying to communicate so much, and I just feel inept because I don't understand what they're trying to communicate. It's obvious they're trying to communicate something, but I don't get what it is.
And sometimes it's pain. Sometimes it's
frustrating.
Like, I've got hurt. I've got a hurt there. That's all it is. They're just, You know, it could be just something that they're lashing out because they've got a pain, or so you bring somebody in and say, okay, my pet's really struggling here. I'm struggling with my pet. I need an animal communicator to help me. We may not, some of us are able to learn how to do this more fully through people like Aaron. And then Aaron is just very, very gifted. And sometimes we just need to get a reading so Aaron can help us to understand our pets better. That's the truth.
Well, everyone can do this. Everyone is born with being able to use telepathy. And I'm a big fan of Rupert Sheldrake, and he's a professor he's doing studies on telepathy and morphic resonance, which is like everyone's got an energy field, and the combined household of, like, you might have a mum, dad, 2 kids, 2 cats. Everyone combined, that is called the morphic resonance. So if one cat passes away, then that disrupts the morphic resonance. Like, it doesn't feel right anymore. Like, there is the obvious grief that humans feel when someone passes away, but animals feel it on that energetic morphic resonance. Like, it just doesn't feel right, as well as the physical body isn't here. Like, they feel both sides equally as bad. And he explained telepathy really, really well, that the earth has a magnetic field. Like, there's the physical earth, and then there's the magnetic field that extends out from the earth. Is same with a magnet. A magnet is a physical magnet, but the magnetic field of a magnet extends out. And he says that the same is with the brain. The brain is the physical brain, but the mind and the energy field of the mind extends out from the brain. And with that energy field of the mind, that's what telepathy is. And you can extend that to who you want to talk to. Like, whether it's a cat that's passed over in spirit, or a dog that's in Tennessee, and I'm in New Zealand. Like, it can extend out. And I really like that, because it's
a good way.
A science-based way of, like, because that's what you really need for it to work, is the belief that it is going to work. If you believe that it's going to work, then it will work. And that's a scientifically proven way of how it actually functions biologically and energetically.
I have a question about that then. Is that why when Cowgirl, when she passed, I had an Australian Shepherd named Cowgirl. She was awesome. And when she passed, Sissy would go out and lay on her grave for about 3 weeks. Every day, she would just walk right out and lay on her grave. When Sissy passed, Brookie would go out and lay on Sissy's grave.
Yeah.
And I've had that experience because I always, bury my animals on my property wherever I am. And, but every time I've done that, the animals that are left back grieving, and they grieve. Oh my gosh, it's you can feel their grief, but it's like they know that that's where they are. That's is that part of that energy? Does that energy go away? Maybe I'm just curious if that has anything to do with why they go into that spot, or is it just smell or whatever?
It could be part smell, could be part residue energy, but yeah, Button did that for a couple of weeks when my cat died. In life, she wasn't like her and Hello, like they're besotted with each other, but Button and her name was Lily, they were both female, so it was like, I'm not going to show any affection to you. And they weren't outwardly affectionate, but when she passed, I was actually surprised how different she was. And she'd go out and she'd sit by where she was buried, and yeah, the energy must still be there. And plus we showed her Lily's body, and she was there when we were burying her and everything. So
almost an honoring, isn't it? But I will guarantee you, if anybody that's watching, if you're energy sensitive, energy doesn't go anywhere. So when I walk out back here, when I go places where Steve and I were, I feel him. I feel his energy. Jeryl, I took you back in this space.
Yeah.
And it's so alive right there. You can feel it. We all, everywhere we go, say you go to Gettysburg and all that trauma happened, it's a really powerful energetic footprint left behind. People are like, oh, it's haunted. It's not haunted. It's just that we are energetic beings. And when we walk and we go places, we actually leave a trail everywhere we go. So our energy is left behind. And in a place where there was a huge amount of trauma, that energy is still really, really big time. So of course, if your pet dies, the energy is still going to be around the house. You're still going to sense them. You know, they're still going to feel. You might watch. You've lost a pet. You might watch them lay in the places where that other pet used to sleep all the time. Or you see that all the time when a person dies, and an older, you know, whatever, they die and their pet goes to that one place every day. They keep going to that one place because they're still sensing their energy. Pets are what we're all longing to be, what we're learning how to be. Pets already know the energy, like we were just talking about. People are finally waking up to it. So,
hopefully.
Yeah, well, some of us are getting it. That's what
Julie Kiss says her husband always said that she loved Coco. I'm assuming Coco is her puppy, more than him. And you know, there's
happened.
It does happen because, well, and I don't even know that it's that somebody loves them more, but it's like with your animals, you know, and I've had other partners, and even Sam has said, well, you treat them so nice. It's like, well, because they give me unconditional love. They don't, you know, they're not being passive aggressive. They're not being any of these human traits that we have and we express towards in a relationship. They're just there. They're happy to see you when you come home. They are happy to hang out with you. All they want to do is love you. And it feels safe to love your animal full on. And I really think that's a lot of it. It's not that we love our animals more, but I think there is that ability to express and be completely vulnerable with an animal when you can't be with another human being sometimes.
We would all learn to love like animals do.
Yeah.
All learn to love like a cat does. Or, well, cats are a little iffy sometimes, but dogs, dogs always love. Cats are like, no, not right now. You know, like we'll be friends later, but right now just don't touch me. You know, cats are a little finicky that way, but dogs always love. They just love, you know? So if we can all learn that from them, it'd be awesome. Everybody get to work on that.
Yeah, really. Hey, this is an interesting question, you guys. Julie Kiss says, do you think it's a good idea to bury your animal with you? I have my dog's ashes. New York passed a law that you can. My husband says I'm crazy to think of this.
Why not?
Why not?
That's not crazy.
I don't think it's crazy at all. I think it's
now, as long as they're already passed, you know, you don't want to bury your living.
Yeah, you go to the live, that's another ballgame.
It's only ashes. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Why wouldn't you?
Julie, I think it's a lovely idea, personally. I really do.
That's very cute.
Yeah.
And another thing.
So we all vote for the it's okay. And
It's
let's see what
definitely
everybody
okay.
else out there thinks. I can't imagine. I think that's a beautiful tribute to want to have your animal with your ashes, with your remains. So.
And I recommend a book going back to the whole unconditional love that animals give you. I'm reading a book at the moment called The Tao of Equus by Linda Cohenoff, and it is blowing my mind, and it's everything that I can't articulate in one book. And she read, there's a bit in there that said that animals obviously don't have the bit of the brain that processes language. Like they can't get thought into language.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is why they are so pure and trustworthy, is because they don't have to filter everything they're feeling and thinking and sensing in that moment and translate that and condense that down into the minute form that is verbal language, because so much is lost in this day and age. So much is lost with language, because yes, you're hearing the words and you might be sensing some form of energy and vibe from me when I'm talking, but you're not getting the whole picture.
Right.
And that's why I like animals, because I can sense the whole picture. I can sense it. My physical cognitive conscious brain might not be able to comprehend it, but deep down I can sense and feel everything that they're trying to say in that one moment, whereas we have to take away the thought and the feeling and the emotion and try and whittle it down into words. That's another reason why I
people are so
because I can walk into a room and I can energetically say hi to everyone, like that's what I do, and then I remember that you're meant to verbally say hi, and I'm like, well, I've already just said hi, so
didn't I do that? I already did that. And they're all just like, that's really, I have to agree with you. I think that people have themselves, our language, our ability to communicate through words is the most confusing thing on the planet. I don't understand most of what you're like, everything gets lost in translation. We're such confusing, whatever, this humanity is so confusing, where animals are so simple. You know, I totally get why it's so much easier for you to work at that level, because they just are honest. If everybody can just honestly say and feel without trying to tie everything up in knots, it'd be okay. But we're a disaster. Humanity's just a hot mess. That's the truth.
And we stripped ourselves away from nature and everything that the indigenous people could do, like talk to animals and be with nature and go with the stars and stuff. And we've created, like I saw a funny meme the other day where our ancestors could follow the stars, and here's me getting lost with the GPS.
That's the truth.
Like we've created GPS and we've taken away telepathy and we've brought in messenger and texting. Like that's basically what telepathy is. And we've just brought in different technologies and ways of doing things that we could already do in the first place. But they make money out of that, so why not?
Yeah.
You put that stuff away and you begin to,
and you don't have to work at it. And I think also, and I'd be curious as to what you think about this, is a lot of us don't trust what we're getting. You know what I mean? If we may think we know what our animal is trying to convey to us, but there's that part of us that, because we have shut down our telepathic abilities, because as a society we've learned to put that away, and if indeed somebody even displays those gifts and abilities, they're ridiculed or made fun of, whatever. So even if we have those gifts and abilities, oftentimes we doubt ourselves, we doubt what we're hearing, we doubt the whole process, because A, we don't think we're gifted enough, or B, it couldn't really be real. There's a lot of reasons. Do you find that when you're working with people, they actually get what their animal is thinking, but they don't believe in themselves enough to have confidence in it?
There have been so many times where I've done a reading for someone and they're like, oh yeah, I thought that too. And I'm like, just,
Ding, ding, ding.
just trust in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true in all of our. The thing is you cannot think your way in with the conscious mind. Everybody wants to try to use just the conscious mind to try to think everything through. It's when you're trying to do any kind of work like this, it's a knowing. It's not a, oh, I think, and once you start getting the brain wrapped up in the way you think the animal is trying to, then it's gone. Forget it. You can't think your way in. You got to be still and you got to really feel it out. What does it feel like? What are they trying, and just be quiet, because that's when it comes through. That's the difference. It's not like, oh, I think they did. It's like, oh, let me be quiet with them. Guess what I just heard? Like it's a difference. And it's a knowing that it's right.
That's one of the techniques that I have in my classes, is to get your brain, your mind, befriend your mind and say that, first of all, thank you for keeping me alive for all my life, because that's what it does.
Exactly.
The whole thinking and analyzing and the whole anxious, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? Your brain is trying to keep you alive. So you need to befriend your mind and say, thank you for keeping me alive. And then when you go through the connection process, I bring the thinker down into the heart space. So you're feeling your thoughts more than thinking them.
Right.
Okay.
And the very, very first feel or sense or knowing that you get from the heart space, that's it. And then the brain will come back online and say, oh, but no, that can't be true.
Right. Exactly. That's the same as
it didn't come from me, it came from there, so it can't be true. But the first, no matter how stupid it sounds, that is what you get. And I've made a practice group on my Facebook page, because if I didn't have the practice groups, then I'd be stuffed. And just having a practice in a group with no judgment of saying, this is the first thing that I got, and no one making fun of you for saying that out loud in front of other people. That's what builds up that trust and the belief of like, oh, so that's what it feels like to actually receive and actually say it out loud and get feedback from the owner saying, yes, that's what my dog or cat does.
Right. It's oftentimes like a practice, isn't it? It's like the first time you do it, you might get one little thing. But if somebody if you feel some confidence in it, the next time you do it, you might get something bigger. And every time it seems to grow, because it's a learning, you're teaching that part of you a different form of communication, really, because we're so used to using the mouth and the brain all the time. Well, this is going through the heart. We got to learn to communicate here. It's a different way of completely. So it takes practice. And that's why having the groups like that, where you look at the picture, I used to do it all the time. Somebody would post something and I'd be like, just like, do a reading on this person. I don't know. And I was always afraid to say anything. Whatever came to me, I was afraid to say anything, because I thought, well, it's gonna be wrong or whatever, and they're gonna be like, nah, that's not it. So it's getting that confidence, but just throw it out there. Whatever it is, throw it out there. It may really be something. It may be just a testing to see if you're actually receiving, but you got to learn to trust yourself. So yeah.
I have this thought just came to me, and so I would be curious to know your take on this. I know that you have talked to people that you have lost in spirit, and you've talked to animals that you've lost in spirit, and you've had those two very different types of communication, and also with your animals that are alive. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are very gifted, and they channel angels and they talk to angels and they talk to spirit and everything else. What is the difference? Because it would appear to me anyway, that oftentimes that one gift doesn't translate into the other gift, or are they the same gift? It's just there's a tweak on it or something. Because I see people who are very gifted and do oracle readings and channel in that, but don't communicate with their animals. Where's that? There's a disconnect there for me somehow. What you've done both, so I'm curious as to the difference or what that is.
For me, I think it's the exact same thing. It just comes down to the belief of whether you believe it can work or not, because we all know energy is everything. When it comes down to it, there's the same energy for everything. It's just set at different frequencies. And when Nick passed away, my friend, it felt the exact same way that an animal would come through, but he was coming through rather than me trying to connect with him. But once he came through, it felt the exact same as how an animal in spirit would come through. It's just he felt, I saw him more as a human form and had a human way of expressing himself than an animal would. And I just feel that it's, you just intend to connect to that animal's spirit, or you intend to connect with that angel's spirit, or you intend to connect with that human that's past spirit. It's your intention on finding that frequency. Like I look at a photo and it, for me, it has a frequency or an energy coming off of it, and I intend to connect with that, and then it feels like that animal is in my energy now. So if that might be the same as mediumship. I haven't done much mediumship, but is that the same way that you do it when you look at a photo and you connect and then you feel the energy?
It's the same way that it works when you're connecting with angels too, because you're calling them into your energy. Now you do that with angelic Reiki. You're like, okay, allow that angel to come into your, you know, your whatever kind of terminology you want to use, but you're allowed, they're sharing their energy in you. So yeah, that's exactly the same. So you're actually drawing the animal's energy into your auric field, and then you're able to. So you're meeting them at their same energetic level.
Cool.
And that's the same whether they're alive or past. Like it's the same process.
Okay. Tammy Fisk has a question. She goes, do you have any thoughts on why some dogs are so scared of noise or even high energy, like kids running around to the point they shake? I have had my dog the whole time as a puppy, so I know he has been loved on lots and no abuse. I have Angel's very sensitive to gunshots, fireworks, the sonic boom of the air jets that go by that are bombing down in the lake. You know, the naval people practice outside my door. But yeah, I know. But there are some animals who, like, I know they have those jackets that you can get for them. I just, New Year's Eve, 4th of July, I just plan on being in my room with my animals, and I sit and hold them all night until the insanity has passed. Why is it that some are so hypersensitive to it and some aren't? Is there a reason for that, especially if they've been, you know, loved on and really protected?
Why are some people more sensitive to loud noises?
Yeah, that's true. But
some of us are just born super hypersensitive. So I don't know if that's what your answer was going to be, Erin, but
that's basically what my answer was going to be.
Okay, so also, I've seen that movie, and this is just part of that question. That movie where the dog keeps coming back into other dogs over and over and over again till it finds its owner that it had when it the owner was a little kid. Okay. So
Yeah.
animals have past lives as well. And could it even be that they had a past life where there was a lot of that kind of traumatic, those sounds going on?
Mm,
Why not?
yeah, like it.
I'm just
Again,
curious.
super loaded question until you get into and talk with that animal about it.
Yeah.
With the kids, it's like kids are super connected, but the dog is still in physical form and it's still half governed by the form that it's in. Like a dog will act like a dog and a cat will act like a cat. And then you've got its energetic personality and soul as well as that. And then you've got the past life stuff on top of that to merge into one big energetic, like that's what that animal is. And so the energy of kids running around that's high energy. Like for me, that'd make me curl up in the fetal position in the corner, to be honest.
Some breeds have a different, it's not even just the animal and all those singlets, you got different breeds. Some breeds handle all of that. Some breeds are part of the chaos. They love it. And then you got the other breeds that are like, no, so be careful too. That's another layer of it, is just be careful what you're bringing into your home, because some animals are going to handle the chaos of children and other animals are going to freak out. So it's really important to be careful about that.
She said, yes, he jumped on my lap and peed on me when thunder. I guess I feel like he has changed and was not that way before always. He's only almost 2, however. So.
Good idea to have a session with Aaron. We're going to lead this because we're actually running over, but I think it's about time. Aaron, how do they contact you? Because if you've got problems with animals like that, then the best way really is one-on-one.
Get hold of her.
An animal communicator.
Yeah.
And there's also fear periods in like a actual dog way. Dogs have fear periods with, I think it's 6 months in a year, where they can just like be fine and the next day they freak out with the pot plant that's sitting in the corner that's been there their whole life.
Really? Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about fear periods and stuff that dogs freak out, because in the wild, dogs, if they think their life is happy-go-lucky all the way through, then they're not going to be scared of a bear. They'll be like, oh, hey, bear, you're cool. Everything's cool. My life's cool. And they'll get eaten by the bear. But if they have fear periods where their brain is anxious and scared of everything, then they get to know, oh, maybe not everything is quite as safe as I think that it is. And it's like a survival instinct thing. But yeah, you can contact me on my website, which is www.helloanimalcommunication.com, and I've got a booking for communications, or you can have a communication and a healing for your animal, or you can have healings for yourself. I've got single Reiki sessions, or I do a 3-pack of Reiki sessions where, like, if an animal says that the human has got some emotional issues that it's taking on, and the animal tells me that the human's got emotional issues, then we can do a 3-pack session to like dig deep and go more in, and we can figure out what your body is actually telling me or trying to tell you or what the dog's trying to tell you.
I'm putting in the website, and that's www.helloanimalcommunication.com.
I just put it in the comments, so you should be okay.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
So one other thing real quick is that Aaron's also teaching, and we're going to break these down so that, or Aaron's going to break them down so that maybe there's some 2-hour courses instead of a full course. So However you're going to do that, that's another place to contact her if you're interested in learning more about animal communication, all the things that diet related and exercise and all these different things that Erin has been working so hard on to put together for classes. She's going to be teaching more, and there is, if anybody's interested, and there's a 4-day class too. So definitely, if you're interested, get in touch with Erin or with any one of us, and we can help direct that information to you.
Awesome. This was great. Oh, Julie says thanks so much. So thank you, Erin. This was really, every time you come on, I learn a whole bunch of new stuff. I love it. Thank you.
It's been great.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess it's another week gone by, and hopefully we'll see you back here at 3:33 p.m. Eastern time for Silent Mystics next Monday.
Yes, we will. Thank you
Sounds
so much, Cheryl Ann. Thank you, Erin, and we will
Thank
see
you.
all
Thank
of you guys that joined us. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.